दूर होगा एक किलो एकदम
Hari Om. Is it heard? Okay. Hari Om. I request all the delegates to be seated. The session will start in the next 5 minutes. I repeat, I request all the delegates to be seated. Hari Om. Hari Om. I request all the delegates to settle down. Let us begin the session. Let us begin with our traditional way of beginning, 3 times Omkara chanting. Please close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Welcome to the 21st Incofyra International Conference on Yoga Frontiers and Yoga Research and its Applications. Welcome to the 3rd Symposia for Mental Health. Let us first invite our first chairperson onto the dais, Dr. R.S. Ramaswamy. Welcome, sir. Dr. Ramaswamy has done BSMS and MD in Sirappu Maruthuppam. He has progressed from an assistant professor to the HOD, and now he is the Deputy Director of CCRS, Director General, of CCRS, which is the Central Council for Research and in Siddha. With a vast experience of 25 years in the medical service, he has served as the member in Research Society in NIS and right now is the research coordinator. Welcome, sir. I now hand over the session to Dr. Ramaswamy.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I thank our Guruji, Dr. H.R. Nagendra ji, and the organizers for having given me an opportunity to chair a session on mental health. Yesterday, we heard our Prime Minister mentioning about 5 important diseases on which the Ayush systems and allopathy system can integrate and produce very good results in treatment. One among them is psychiatric disorders. It's a challenging one. As far as the Ayush systems are concerned, we have not achieved anything significant in the treatment of mental disease as far as modern science is concerned, as per the modern science. So we have to establish our methodologies on modern scientific lines so as to get it accepted globally. In the recent past, Ministry of Ayush has requested all the councils, research councils, all the 5 councils to produce a dossier on mental health, treatment of mental disorders with Ayush systems. And we have not completed the dose here, but we have contributed, each council has contributed its share in producing a common dose here, and the work is going on, it's not yet completed. Really, it's a challenging one. Now, the modern science, modern medicine has got a very good effect in treating the mental disorders, but at the same time, the side effects produced by the modern drugs is innumerable. It's an untold misery. See, day-to-day activities is severely affected. The individual has to take the allopathic prescription for a long time, years together, and gradually they have to taper the dosage. Before they completely stop the medicine, it will take years, 3 years, 5 years, or even 10 years. Sometimes patients have to take the medicine lifelong. And the side effects produced by such drugs affect the individual's even cognitive functions, day-to-day ability to perform their activities. Mostly they produce drowsiness and produce dullness, mental dullness. So in order to combat such diseases, we are on the lookout for drugs in Ayush system of medicine which will not produce side effects, which can produce a curative effect appreciably. The days are not far off till we discover such medicines. So already there are some procedures from time immemorial. Our people of India, various states, treat mental disorders then and even in villages. There are some superstitious beliefs. Sometimes they may or may not be superstitious. Sometimes they have effect also. For example, chanting mantras. It is there. Chanting mantras is actually effective, like home chanting. In villages, even in villages and even towns, we could have seen the patients with mental derangement being treated by traditional healers with neem leaves or application of lime juice on the head and taking them to temples, specific temples. There are temples which have a curative effect in mental disorders. Not all the temples. There are choice of temples, especially Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh and even Karnataka. So when the patients are taken to such temples, really they produce some effect. Probably the vibrations produced when the patient is taken inside may have some curative effect. It is there. We have witnessed. And taking the patients to asylums, which are located closely to falls, like Kuttalam Falls. There is a lunatic asylum there in Kuttalam, in Tamil Nadu, South Tamil Nadu. So there used to be patients from all over India. They are taken there, and the patients are allowed to take bath daily, morning and evening, in the Kuttalam Falls. And the water from the falls is said to be very effective because it carries medicinal properties of all the herbal trees or bushes or whatever it may be. Along with it travels, and it takes along with the medicinal properties, and so it produces some curative. Even the vibrations are the so-called vibrations produced when the patient is allowed to take part in the falls. They have produce some effect, curative effect. It is there. The effect we have seen, we have witnessed. Some 40 days, one mandalam, that's 40 days or 45 days, the patients are allowed to take bath. Then they become all right. But recurrence may be there. The change of place itself will produce curative effect in treating the mental disorders. Stress is the main cause, especially the ladies, the female folk. They become more susceptible to stress because of family problems. They have to face many problems. When compared to the gentlemen, ladies face more problems in the family. They have to bear the entire stress of the family. So, very often, the hysteria, a type of mental disorder, the female population is more affected than male population in hysteria. So we have brought out certain medicines for treating hysteria and convulsive disorders also. They are also closely related to mental disorders, convulsive disorders. So these disorders, they need prolonged treatment. So in order to combat these diseases by Ayush system medicine, we must encourage medical fraternity to focus their attention more on treating these mental disorders by Ayush system medicine. So first, today there are two speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Rama Jayasundar, Department of Nuclear Magnetic Resonance, AIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. She started her career in 1990 at the Defense Research and R&D Organization, DRDO, Delhi. In 1993, she joined the Department of NMR, Nuclear Magnetic Resonance, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Her area of specialization is biomedical, NMR, clinical imaging and spectroscopy, radio frequency, coil designing and building, and RF pulse sequence programming. She has developed a low-cost RF transmitter receiver coil for clinical use and had received Young Scientist Award. She was a visiting professor at the Max Planck Institute of Biophysical Chemistry, Göttingen, Germany. She has authored a number of research publications in peer-reviewed journals and has also won many awards and honors. She is currently involved in scientific research in Ayurveda. Her research interests range from applications of NMR, MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, MR spectroscopy, and other analytical techniques in both basic and clinical Ayurvedic research. So, out of the two topics, one is from Ayurveda, the other one is from Siddha. The first one is from Ayurveda, related to Ayurveda, Dr. Rama Jayasundar. I now invite Dr. Rama Jayasundar to present her topic.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Chairperson, for the kind introduction. At the outset, I would like to thank the conference organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share some of my work on effects of mantra, in particular Gayatri Mantra, on brain in normal volunteers studied using the technique of magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Mananat trayate iti mantraha. This is the definition for mantra. It means that which protects because of repeated utterances. There are very many attributes of mantra given in classical literature. So some of them are that, it's a prerequisite for spiritual advancement and higher attainment, and it instills focused concentration, and it leads one to deeper spiritual awakening. And of all the mantras, Gayatri Mantra is considered the most powerful and the potent. And again, there are many attributes for Gayatri Mantra, and the meaning itself is that which protects and saves those who repeat or meditate upon it. In Sanskrit, it reads Gayantam Trayate. Trayate means protect. Gayantam Trayate iti Gayatri. So when a person repeatedly utters this, then there is a beneficial effect the mantra produces. The Gayatri Mantra itself reads this way: Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So that is the Gayatri Mantra. And in very simple words, the translation is, let the most adorable tejas, I'm sorry about the contrast, I didn't realize that, it's going to be a kind of open auditorium. Let the most adorable tejas of the Supreme Being that we meditate upon kindle and illuminate our intellect. So that is the most simple translation of the mantra. And as I said, there are very many attributes given to Gayatri Mantra in the literature. They say that the words are selected and arranged not only to convey the meaning it is conveying, but it also, the arrangement creates a specific power through their utterance. So the way the words are arranged also plays a role in the effect it produces. It's considered to awaken the vital energies and illuminate the intellect. Gayatri Mantra is considered a supreme vehicle for enlightenment and for deeper spiritual awakening. Now, as a scientist, I had two questions. Does Gayatri Mantra affect any changes in the brain? If so, are these measurable? So these were two questions that I had in mind, and there are a number of techniques that can be used to study the effects of on changes in brain. I chose the technique of magnetic resonance because it has certain advantages. It's a non-invasive technique, and you can study the brain as it functions without disturbing the system. So I use the technique of magnetic resonance. The technique itself has two major branches. One is called MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. It gives spatial information, it gives anatomical information. And the other aspect is called MR spectroscopy, which gives biochemical information. So I used a combination of both MR imaging and MR spectroscopy, although the results are based on the MR spectroscopy. The region I wanted to focus on was the frontal lobe. You can see the frontal lobe here, and you can see the, I don't know whether you are able to see the pointer. Yeah, so I chose the frontal lobe for my region of interest because when the volunteers were trained to chant the mantra, they were asked to focus on the Agnya Chakra, which is between the eyebrows. And so that was one of the reasons I chose the frontal lobe. And also frontal lobe from modern medicine point of view, it's involved in thinking process. So for these two reasons, I chose to look at the neurochemicals in the frontal lobe. And this figure shows an axial image of normal brain. And you can see the two small boxes drawn here. And these, in terms of in the context of MR spectroscopy, it's called voxel. And so this graph you see here has been taken from this small voxel. It's about 10 millimeter cube. That's the volume of the voxel. You can see a number of neurochemicals here. So this is N-acetyl aspartate. This is considered a neuronal marker. You find it only in neurons. And you can see actually two places where NAA is mentioned. So these refer to different functional groups from NAA. So one is a CH2 group, the other one is a CH3 group. And this is from glutamate and glutamine. This is from creatine, phosphocreatine. This is from choline-containing compounds like phosphocholine, phosphatidylcholine. And MI stands for myoinositol, and these are again other functional groups for glutamine and creatine and myoinositol. So this is the kind of information that you can get non-invasively using MR spectroscopy, proton MR spectroscopy. And what I did was, my interest was in looking at the asymmetry of the distribution of these metabolites. So I had chosen two voxels, one from the left hemisphere, other from the right hemisphere, and I had acquired the proton MR spectrum from both these and saw whether there were any changes that the mantra affects. So some basic information about these metabolites so that you're all able to appreciate what kind of changes that are captured with this study and what it means. NAA, alanine, and glutamate are amino acids, and biochemical like myoinositol and glucose, they come under sugar category. And then you have some amines, and then high energy metabolites like creatine and lactate. So this, I have a huge database on about 400 volunteers. My interest was in looking at inherent biochemical asymmetry in a normal population. So these 400 volunteers are all right-handed volunteers, and so you take any part of the brain, there is a asymmetrical distribution of these metabolites. You can see the difference in these two graphs. So I had, so the baseline of my work was, the study was to start with the inherent asymmetry and see whether there is any change with the chanting of mantra. So this is the protocol. This was actually almost a 2-year, the study took 2 years. You can see that the first 3 months there was no chanting. Then GM stands for Gayatri Mantra. Then for 3 months, the volunteers were chanting the mantras. And then there was another 3 months of follow-up period where there was no chanting. On the other study that followed this study, this took almost a year, 9 months, with a gap of giving a gap of another 3 to 6 months. The same set of volunteers went through the same protocol, except that instead of Gayatri Mantra, they were reading out the meaning, the English translation of the mantra. So there were, in fact, I started off with 100 volunteers, and the data I have is only 20 volunteers because it was a very, very rigorous protocol, and not everybody were able to follow it. So the volunteers were handpicked. They were all male volunteers, right-handed male volunteers. They were trained to chant the mantra in a particular way. So there was uniformity in the way the mantra was chanted. And so then they were trained by a professional for chanting the mantra. Then there was a gap of nearly 4 to 5 months, and then the baseline study started here. So they used to come for the MR studies every week. And then when it came to this 3-month period of the recitation, they recited the mantra 1,008 times every morning between 3 to 6 a.m. It took a good, maybe about 2.5 to 3 hours to chant it 1,008 times. And so all the volunteers were in the 20 to 30 years age group. Spectra, proton MR spectra was obtained both from the left and the right lobes. And the metabolite ratios were calculated because this is more robust than absolute concentration of these metabolites per se. So N-acetyl aspartate to choline and N-acetyl aspartate to creatine and creatine to choline, these were the ratios which were calculated, and the left-right asymmetry ratio was determined. So which means that I calculate the N-acetyl to choline ratio in the left hemisphere, the same ratio is calculated in the right hemisphere, and one over the other gives the left-right asymmetry ratio. Now this is the results. The results were quite interesting. You can see that the graph in the upper part of this figure, it's from a single volunteer, and you can see that, so this was for the initial 3 months period. You can see that there is a fluctuation of these metabolites. So this is, the fluctuations are more in the frontal lobes. You will not see so much fluctuation of metabolites in, let's say, a visual cortex or a parietal cortex. But in frontal lobe, which is the seat of also thinking, there is anybody who has a very, very restless mind, you can see the fluctuations of these metabolites, you know. And so this is a very general pattern I have taken. This is a data from a single volunteer. And each of these data points is average of four readings, because the volunteers used to come every day, every week, once a week, for getting the MR spectra done. So in a month they had 4 MR spectra, and these are average values. I'm sorry that there is no error bar shown here, but the error bars were not too high. You will have to take my word for it. So you can see that there is a lot of fluctuation. And this is from a volunteer who had the chanting of mantra. So you can see that from 3 to 6 months, there was Gayatri Mantra was chanted every day between 3 to 6 a.m., 1,008 times, and once a week they used to come for the MR spectrum, obtaining the MR spectrum. You can see that the first month there is nothing much happening. If you don't look at this part of the graph, you will think that this is part of this natural fluctuation. But then you see that they are beginning to kind of come closer to 1, which means that the asymmetrical distribution is reducing, and you can see that it's coming much closer to 1, the value 1 here. And so the chanting of Gayatri Mantra ends on the 6th month, and then I carried out the study for another 3 months, and you can see that this effect, at least for 3 months, it was sustained. And now the next graph is this is again, it's pretty interesting. Again, this is no recitation, it's a baseline study. You can see the usual fluctuations that you see in all volunteers. And this is where the same volunteers were reciting the English translation that I read out 1,008 times every day for 3 months. You can see that something, it's not the same as here. There is a pattern, but then again, it's not what you saw in the previous one. It's not, the asymmetry is not reducing as you see in the previous one. So I'm just going to change gear a bit and talk about functional MRI. The data I'm going to show is not the ones that I had obtained. This is from the literature. I thought it's interesting to share this information to put the results that I have in perspective. So functional MRI is a technique in MR whereby you study the brain as it functions. So there is a stimulus that's given to the brain. And so, for example, this figure shows a visual stimulus. So this volunteer is exposed to a visual stimulus, and then the region which participates in the study, there is an increased amount of blood flow to it, and that is measured in MRI. And you can actually see, the contrast is not good enough, but you can see a slight discoloration here. So this is the visual cortex, and you see the volunteer, this part of the brain is participating in this visual action. So there are very interesting studies, not very many studies on auditory stimulation. Most of the fMRI studies are on motor cortex or on visual stimulus. Now there are increasing number of studies on memory and language abilities, but there are not much studies on auditory stimulus. But the few ones that are there in the literature, it's very interesting. You see, this shows the regions that get activated in the brain when the same words are heard or seen or thought or spoken. You see that different parts of the brain are participating in different actions concerned with these words. So there is a difference when a person thinks. So this is the frontal lobe. So when a person thinks something, then thinks the word, then there is a different part of the brain which participates in the action. And when the same person is pronouncing the word, uttering, there is a different area which gets stimulated. So the scans here, the previous slide, it shows activation of auditory cortex when words are heard, and visual cortex in the occipital lobe when words are seen, that is, it's a silent reading, and motor cortex and Broca's area, that's in the temporal lobe when the words are spoken, and the limbic association and the frontal cortex when the words are thought. So I think there is a difference. I have not done studies if people are exposed to hearing the Gayatri Mantra, or even, not uttering it physically, but then, thinking about it. So I'm sure there would be, I do not know whether it would be reflected as changes in the biochemical, but the fMRI studies should definitely show some changes in the areas participating. So the inference from this study is that there is the asymmetrical distribution of neurochemicals. It reduces during recitation of Gayatri Mantra, at least for 3 months, the effect was sustained. And remember that this is a very acute, intervention of Gayatri Mantra, because reciting it 1,008 times is quite an ordeal. And the asymmetrical distribution of neurochemicals does not reduce during the recitation of its English meaning. So I think this is a very, very interesting result, and lots of studies can be done to take this work forward. And I think because there is time, I would like to share with you all a couple of more slides. So this is, mantra is a sound vibration. And this is a picture taken way back in the early 19th century of the sound waves. So sound waves are basically acoustic waves, and which has no electrical component. So this is not like an electromagnetic radiation which has an electric and a magnetic component. So this has only acoustic, it's acoustic wave, and it creates vibrations in the air. and there is a physical pressure created in the sound. So there is the air as a medium, and there is a pressure which the sound waves create. And there are two kinds of energy that's associated with the sound. One is the potential energy because of the compression of the matter, and the second is the kinetic energy of the oscillations of the medium. So what I am trying to tell you all is that sound waves have any wave for that matter. The minute you say it's a wave, there is an energy associated with it. How much energy is what differentiates the different waves. So if you look at mantra as a sound vibration, leave aside the spiritual aspect of it. It is a sound vibration. It has energy in it. Anything which has energy has the ability to impact. And whether the impact is subtle or at a gross level, whether it is something that can be measured with the techniques we have is the question. And that's the question that I had addressed. Thank you very much for your patient hearing, and if there is time, I will be happy to take questions.
The topic is open for discussion. Anybody can clarify. She has nicely brought out the analytical examination of vibrations produced in the brain, the activities in the brain. So this is how we have to establish scientifically the effect of mantras by employing MRI and NMR.
Okay, I take it that my presentation was crystal clear, and yes. This is something that has to be done, experiments have to be conducted and only then seen. What I have shown is there is something happening at the level of the biochemistry, right? Whether there is any effect at the structural level is something that we need to study. For example, yoga is known to increase the gray matter, and so more studies are required. Huh? No, this was a simple and to the point chanting, just reading out the words, and so there was no tune, there was no music. The emphasis was on correct pronunciation. So they were trained by a Sanskrit professor. Yeah. Would you mind coming a bit in front and asking, because I'm not able to hear you? Or if there's a mic which can be given here.
Just wanted to know regarding epilepsy patients, anything can be done through yoga or mantra? Epilepsy.
With yoga, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. Ayurveda does talk about chanting mantras in certain diseases. And there are specific mantras which are prescribed. And Gayatri Mantra is not one of them, but it should have, it would be interesting to check the mantras that Ayurveda says should be used in specific diseases and see whether there are any changes. It would be an interesting study.
My friend's daughter she's about 10 years age, so she's having the epilepsy problem. So he just wanted to know anything can be done in this through yoga. Can we give any suggestions to him?
One thing I can tell you is Ayurveda can handle epilepsy well. That's something I can tell with confidence. I know of very good Ayurvedic doctors who handle epilepsy very well. And coming to mantra, I do not know whether it would have any specific role in a specific condition like epilepsy, but there should be some. It's considered beneficial.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
After 3 months there was a gap. Any reason for that?
No, because in case that was before I started the study. So in case there was any change that had taken place, I just wanted them to, stabilize and didn't want them to influence the study. So that's why I had a gap of about 4 to 5 months.
And after 6 months, how many times you want them to continue this mantra? 1008 only? Really?
1,000, yeah. For
After
the
6
study,
months, after you are studied.
no, that was left to them. I didn't tell anything. It
You
was
didn't
up
tell.
to them what they did. But for these, during the period of the study, it was 1,000. It was very difficult to, literally had to cherry pick the,
So there was no follow-up, you mean to say?
no,
And have you collected data after a gap, after 6 months?
no, no.
So we have got one more presentation. It's getting late.
Thank you, Dr. Rama. Very good presentation. And just one question. You said you had healthy individuals to begin with. So you said the asymmetry reduced on the neurochemicals. How does that reflect in their behavior or in their mental capabilities?
See, these were a set of youngsters who had faith in this, who believed in this, and who were tuned to these kind of activities. So, I know that some of them still continue to practice, although I have not done a kind of follow-up of how they are feeling. But I presume that that it's beneficial to them in some way. They are all, most of them were IT professionals.
But we didn't have any studies per
No,
se.
I did not have any follow-up studies. This study is, it was not a funded study. It was something that out of my own curiosity that I had done.
Thank you
So
very
this study itself took about 2 years. But yeah, it would have been nice if I had followed that up.
Mantra chanting and Sarvrita Palan will be significance in children's, like they won't be conscious about this is good or not. So this will lead to increase their intellectual capacity or not, like the age of 6 to 16 year of age group, if any studies has been conducted.
Well, to my knowledge, such study has been done, but there are a whole lot of studies that can be done.
Ma'am, what is your opinion? This chanting the mantra of Gayatri mantra, this will lead to increase the intellectual capacity of those children or not?
To be very frank, I don't know. I mean, this is what, if you look at the attributes of Gayatri Mantra, it says that, it increases the intellectual, capacity. But all my study has shown is there are measurable changes. So what the implications, the reduction in asymmetry, what does it mean? I don't know, to be very frank. Does it mean that the person becomes a balanced person? We don't know. Because even in a normal population, occasionally you see people who do not have so much asymmetrical distribution, right? And these people are not balanced people in that conventional way. So it's difficult for me, with the kind of data I have, it's difficult for me to make any statements what it is. So my aim was to see if there are any changes. And are these measurable, right? To that extent, I'm happy to say that the changes were there and they are reproducible as well. Now, there are a lot more studies that can be done, and, I encourage people to kind of, take up a lot more studies.
Ma'am, what about Gayatri Mantra's effect in ADHD patients? In our hospital, we used to get so many kids, like I'm doing PG in Kumar Vidya from KLE College. So we used to get ADHD patients of age of 6 years, 9 years. For them, how this Gayatri Mantra will be helpful?
What I can say is, you kind of train them and see whether there are, at least look at simple markers, simple biomarkers, simple clinical markers, and see if there is any, change which can be measured objectively. And there are also subjective changes. You see there is an improvement in the clinical condition, so you can document it, and it's not very difficult to do.
Because ADHD people, they won't be like listen much, they won't concentrate.
Yeah, you can ask them to make them listen rather than make them chant. Okay.
This will be the final question for this presentation as we're running out of time.
I'm sorry, ma'am, very quick last question. Your volunteers, those who are chanting mantra, didn't they refuse after 3 months taste and nourishment of Gayatri mantra not to discontinue it? Then they wanted to continue because in your case, in your study, you wanted them to chant it for 3 months and stop.
Yeah.
So did some subjects told, no, we will continue?
No, they were given clear instructions, that this
They
is the
agreed.
protocol and, so that's why, I started off with 100. I have data from 100, but only 20 I actually believe followed it. So that's why I am using the data from 20.
Please attend the panel discussion from
Thank you.
4 to 5. There's no question session right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enlightening talk, and thank you for the audience for being such wonderful responses. I would now like to ask Dr. Ramaswamy to felicitate our speaker with a token of our affection. I would like to invite Dr. Kannan now onto the dais. Please welcome, sir.
The second speaker is Dr. M. Kannan, the research officer, Siddha Central Research Institute, Arumbakam, Chennai. It is one of the units of Central Council for Research in Siddha. He is presenting only a review on mental health in Siddha. We are already running short of time, so we have to complete within by 3:30, and he will make his full presentation, and after which the discussion should be restricted, so that we have to start our panel discussion on. I invite Dr. Kannan is a research officer, he has a very keen interest in, he has involved himself in a number of research activities, Siddha drugs. As far as the mental health, we have not, we have brought out a dose here and we have not involved drugs. We are pioneering certain activities and the results of which will come later. So now he is going to present a review paper on mental health in Siddha. Dr. Kannan.
Thank you, sir. எல்லோருக்கும் வணக்கம். Good evening to one and all present here. I am Dr. M. Kannan, working as a research officer in Central Council for Research in Siddha, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, Chennai. By training, I am a Siddha physician. Now I am going to share something about the mental health in Siddha system of medicine, a review. I hope you all very aware that, to begin with, the definition of health declared by WHO, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and or infirmity. This is maybe declared around the 1946. On the other hand, Siddha system of medicine not only provides therapies, treatments in a holistic manner, but also it advocates the science of life. Siddhar Thirumular, in his treatise Tirumandram, which was dating back to 3000 BC, which emphasizes mental well-being as an important criterion for health. மறுப்பது உடல் நோய் மருந்தெனலாகும், மறுப்பது உள நோய் மருந்தெனச் சாலும், மறுப்பது இனி நோய் வாராதிருக்க, மறுப்பது சாவை மருந்தெனலாமே. மறுப்பது உடல் நோய் மருந்தெனலாகும். One that cures a physical illness is a medicine. மறுப்பது உள நோய் மருந்தெனச் சாலும். One that cures mental illness is a medicine. மறுப்பது இனி நோய் வாராதிருக்க, one that prevents illness is medicine. மறுப்பது சாவை மருந்தெனலாமே, one that bestows immortality is medicine. So this is the strength of Siddha system of medicine. Siddha system has a rich resources, literary researches, One of the earliest documentation on human feelings and its classification is available in the ancient Tamil literatures Tolkappiyam, which dates back to 1400 BC, in which the author Tolkappiyar discussed the 8 types of feelings: laughter, melancholy, dejection with guilt, wonder, fear, jubilation, anger, and buoyancy. The understanding of human emotions, behavior, and the associated psychopathology was in advanced stage in the ancient Tamil and the comparable to the other ancient cultures of the world. So in ancient days itself, they have documented well about the mental illness and their classifications. In-depth knowledge about the mind. One side, they are documenting the mental illness and their classifications. On the other hand, they are advocating in a very advanced manner. In Agathiyar Jnana Padal, which claims that if purification of mind is achieved, all the other ascetic practices are not at all necessary. So that was ma'am also shows the last slide. Mere chanting the mantra, which gives a very much beneficial. So likewise, the purification of mind is achieved, all other ascetic practices are not at all necessary. If our mind is purified, there is no need for chanting mantras, there is no need for raising our Kundalini Shakti, there is no need for practicing pranayamam, and the mantras become fulfilled. Nurturing good thoughts and performing good deeds amount to practice of Kaya Kalpam, it's a rejuvenation, which prevents or postpones the developing the signs and aging like graying of hair, wrinkling the skin, renders one resistant to diseases and ensures the longevity. Purification of minds results from controlling our senses and eliminating the ahankara. Information on medicines useful in improving memory and treating seizures is available from the inscriptions. This is the epigraphic evidence on mental health care in Tamil-speaking regions. The information engraved on the east wall of the first corridor of the Venkatesa Perumal temple, which was constructed during the reign of Vikrama Chola in the present Chengalpattu district of Tamil Nadu. Now itself we can see that a compound formulation made mainly from Brahmi, Bacopa moniri, was stored in the hospital which is attached to the temple. Brahmi has given in the management of psychiatric diseases and seizures. I already told that Siddha system of medicine has very rich literary resources. In that, Agathiyar Monidar Krihi Nool and Yugi Vaidya Sindhamani are the 2 books has the detailed description about the mental illness. The others are Agathiyar Kanakamani, Agathiyar Manakolam Aindu, Pitharoga Sigichai, Siddha Maruthuvam Podu and Sirappu. Vali, Alal, Ayyam, Vadam, Pittam, Kabam are the 3 vital life factors which is responsible for the each and every human being's health. In that, aggravation of Pittam, that is arousal, and the reduction of Vadam, depression and hypokinesis are the basic factors for mood swings. So normalization aims at reducing the arousal by Dwala Idal, anointing of paste or some oil, and boosting through mood elevators by giving the internal drugs and yogam. So the Vali, Alal, Ayyam and the 3 vital life factors are closely interlinked, and they are the responsible for health if the derangement or if the imbalances causes the all other illnesses. Andhakaranam, that's the intellectual faculties, has 4 components. You all know that. Thought, analysis, decision and execution, which are responsible for the physio-psychological functions. So the constant increases of Pittam, which influences the intellectual faculties, Antakaranam, which leads to mood swing. On the whole, the relationship between Andam, macrocosm, and the Pindam, microcosm, is best exhibited among mentally affected individuals whose mood swings are in a direct proportion to social factors and planetary influences. These are all the both intrinsic factors and extrinsic factors of mental illness. Food, lifestyle, diseases and characters of a person are classified, comes under the intrinsic factors, and seasonal variations and celestial influences may be the causes of extrinsic factors. Siddha system very clearly explains the types of mental illness. They have a very rich classifications and types also. Kirihai, lunacy; Brahmai, bewilderment; Unmatam, schizophrenia; Cheruknoi is one of the obsessive compulsive disorder; Kudi Verinoi, intoxication of opium, toddy liquor; Verinoi, psychiatric disorders; Mayakanoi, fainting; Valinoi, convulsion; Sudika Vadam, hysteria; Very Adal Noi, catatonic withdrawal; Peru Ayanoi, catatonic excitement; Mood Adal Noi, chronic schizophrenia; Murchai, syncope; and Sannyasam at the final coma. Siddhar Agathiyar has described psychotic, emotional, and behavioral disturbances in his treatise called Krihai Nool. Based on his views, 18 types can be made based on the disturbed mind, excited mind, deteriorated mind, and severely affected mind. Based on these components, he has classified 18 types. Vada Krihai, Sletpana Krihai, Alal Krihai, Mood Krihai or comes under the catatonic withdrawal. Munangal Krihai, Valipu Krihai, Pei Pidi Krihai or comes under the catatonic excitement. Anal Krihai, Pitta Krihai, Echil Krihai, Buddha Krihai, Jala Krihai, Kallari Krihai, Kumbid Krihai or comes under the chronic schizophrenia. Nadavind Krihai, Mohini Krihai, Marutti Krihai, Neerkudi Krihai are in the maniac excitement. While treating the mental illness, Siddha advocates many things. The first line of treatment, we have to balance the vitiated three vital life factors through therapeutic purgation, therapeutic emesis, and nasal instillation and collyrium. So, based on the humoral pathology, we have to reduce the aggravated pittam through twiloidal anointing with oil or paste and yoga meditation techniques. Reduction of vadam, this is the responsible for depression and hypokinesis, should be balanced through internal medications. Simultaneously, we have to nourish the 7 udal kattikal, 7 physical constituents such as nourishing essence, blood and muscle. These are all the very important therapies among the external and internal therapies which was prescribed by Siddhas. Duvalai, it's an anointing one, external application of oil or paste. Ved is steaming. Pugai, fumigation. Oral medications. Nasiyam, akranam, snuffing. Kalikam, psychotherapy. And Taila Muluku, that's an oil bath. Evidence-based data on the medicines discussed for treating mental illness. Backupo maniri, Brahmi is a very common psychotropic plant which shows the management of cognitive performance, anxiety, and depression in the elderly. The results revealed that Backupo moneri has potential for safely enhancing cognitive performance in the elderly people. Turmeric, Curcuma longa, is very commonly used in India. According to the Professor Murali Duraiswamy of Duke University in North Carolina, turmeric prevents the spreading of harmful amyloid plaques found in the brain of Alzheimer's sufferers. These plaques are thought to play a key role in the symptoms such as memory loss and mental impairment. So there is a clear evidence that curcumin binds with the plaque. So epidemiological studies in India, turmeric is used routinely, show that the incidence of Alzheimer's diseases between the ages of 70 to 79 years is 4.4-fold less than that seen in the USA. They are not using as much as in Indians for the turmeric concern. Vallarai, Centella asiatica. Vallarai is one of the important plants indicated in the treatment for mental illness. The results of a clinical trial reduced stress, attenuated anxiety, negated depression, and enhanced adjustment, attention in patients without any side effects like vertigo, nausea, and dizziness or mental weakness. Many biomedicines which are using for the mental illness it produces sedative side effects. But this one, vertigo, nausea, and dizziness or mental weakness are not reported. The scope of Siddha system of medicine in combating mental illness. Intramural and observational studies can be initiated to evaluate the selected drugs. The external therapy, Dwala that's an anointing of oil and paste, has to be validated. Varmam, Tokkanam also have promising scope in the management as both regularize the bioenergy flow and also facilitate lymphatic drainage, thus balancing the neurotransmitters like serotonin and melatonin. With the collaboration of some advanced neurocenters, this pathway can be studied. Quality of sleep is always recommended to prevent depression and many psychiatric ailments. Herbs like Nardostachys jatamansi and various thylam applications can be studied to understand the efficacy and prevent REM kind of sleep pattern. Siddha Yoga principles prescribed by Tirumular in the third Tandram, mainly focusing on Atanga Yogam, can be taught to the vulnerable group. Each district hospital can have a separate Siddha mental health wing through which the physicians can render service. They are providing not only the therapeutic management but also to conduct proactive program targeting the vulnerable group. Improper practice of yoga techniques like Kundalini yoga and various types of meditation lead to psychiatric illness. This is the quote given in Siddha Classics. So non-professional, unqualified yoga teachers teaching yoga and meditation techniques improperly, it may lead to getting chance of psychiatric illness and it is a threat to yoga. So at this one, a survey may be conducted to know the extent of the problem, and based on this, a policy may be derived to regularize the yoga practice and thereby prevent improper practice of yoga techniques by the public through visual and print medias. So do learn and practice yogam under the guidance of Guru. And these are all the references. So at the outset, Siddha system has many potentialities and many virgin areas. Mental health is also one of that. So we have to do many researches on the hidden areas. So I humbly submit my acknowledgement to the Professor Dr. R.S. Ramaswamy, Director General, CCRS, he is my teacher. Dr. P. Satyarajeshwaran, Assistant Director in charge, Siddha Central Research Institute, Arambakam, Chennai. Dr. S. Natarajan, Medical Consultant, Siddha Central Research Institute, Arambakam, Chennai, he is my friend, and other friends and staff of CCRS. Finally, I thank the organizers of the 21st Incofyra. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir, for sharing such an in-depth traditional knowledge about Siddha and Yoga. We would like to thank sir with a token of our appreciation. Thank you, sir. I would like to request sir to present the closing words for this session.
The first speaker, Dr. Rama Jayasundar, made a presentation based on MRI and NMR. The second presentation by Dr. Kannan is a review of Siddha literature on mental health. Yoga forms an important part in treating the mental illness. Yoga also forms an important part in Siddha system of medicine. Tirumular is the authority. The yoga techniques have to be properly taught, especially the raising of Kundalini Shakti. Other yoga techniques, no problem. In raising the Kundalini Shakti remains dormant in the Mooladharam. And when it is raised to various levels, to Akine and Sahasraram, it should be proper. The proper training should be given. If there is any deviation or any improper performance of the practice of raising the Kundali Shakti, it may result in mental disorder. It has been given in the Siddha literature. So Kundali Shakti is a dormant energy force which remains in the Mooladhara. So we have to awaken the Kundali Shakti and raise it to the level of Sahasraram to take the nectar that is attain salvation, becoming know-all, becoming God. So that is the aim of the yoga practice, becoming one with God. So the practice of raising the Kundali Shakti, there is every possibility of deviation, and that may result in mental disorders. A number of promising herbs are there in Siddha medicine, and some of them are under study. There are herbs which act on brain. There are herbs which act on GI tract. GI tract also forms an important cause in producing mental disorders. So on this basis, a number of studies are being undertaken by the research officers. The review paper presented by Dr. Kannan tells us what the Siddha system has for treating the mental disorders. There are herbs, herbo-mineral formulations, which, like Purana Chandrodayam, in which gold is one of the ingredients. The study is being undertaken by some PhD scholars, and they have got very good effect in improving the cognitive functions. And so a number of such studies are going on, and after some time, these studies will reveal the strength of Siddha system of medicine in treating the mental illnesses. So I appreciate Dr. Rama Jayasundar for the efforts he has taken in the study and presenting the topic. Next, I appreciate Dr. Kannan, research officer, for his preparation and presentation of a review paper on mental health in Siddha medicine. With this, let me conclude this section, because the session is going to be followed by a panel discussion. So once again,